Today I want to talk to you about the return of the Divine Feminine. Now, what I mean by the Divine Feminine and what I mean by return. The Divine Feminine is the best way to describe it is the realization or the knowing that everything in nature, everything is holy, everything is divine. And the feminine part comes into it, where this realization is communicated to us through intuition, especially, but also through dreams and visions. So when we talk about the feminine, everyone's got a feminine and a masculine part, but the feminine is your inner world, the inner world of the soul. So it's your visions, your dreams, and especially your intuition, your synchronicities, poetry, art, the true poetry and art, the visionary poetry and art, we could say, is the feminine part. This is the way of your heart. A lot of people just point, what's the spirit, what's the soul, you know, that's the feminine, and they'll point to their heart, you know, your heart, your body knows, knowing that your body is holy, your body is divine, and the wisdom of the body, the life force that makes you alive, you know, gives your body the warmth, digests your food inside of your stomach, and then it goes through your intestines, beats your heart, you know, makes you see. All these things are thanks to this spirit, this energy, this consciousness that is within us. And this is what we mean by the Divine Feminine. Now, why is she returning? Because I say she, because in the earliest memories, collective memory of humanity, the image of the divine that was present in all of nature, in all of Earth and the entire universe, was always feminine, woman. And that's why we call her she, the great goddess, as Marija Gimbutas said. Now, what do I mean by return? By return, I mean more and more people are coming forward with their own experiences, where they have either in a dream or intuition or through art or some way, or through work, like Marija Gimbutas, for instance, where she discovered that the oldest layers of human culture, oldest layers of human religion, all the way from the Paleolithic, really to the Neolithic and into the parts of paganism, were dedicated to the sacredness of everything which was seen as a great woman, as a great deity in the shape of a woman, in the image of a woman. So it's returning because what we are finding is that the humanity's psyche has become very dangerously unbalanced. So it has the masculine part, and the masculine part, when I'm talking about the masculine, I'm talking about the rational mind, society. The thinking, the intellect has taken over, and this intellect rejects everything that is irrational. So the rational mind always rejects everything that is irrational. So if I was to come to a scientist and tell him I had a dream which came true, they would really laugh at me and say, "Well, where's your proof that that was a prediction, that was a foretelling dream? You know, just a coincidence." Many of the scientists, many of the society still rejects intuition. That's why we reject poetry and art. It doesn't make any, especially the real deep art that speaks about these things, doesn't make any money because people don't value it. We have forgotten about it. Yeah. So I have more and more people that are coming forward to me, especially women, with this longing that they are missing something inside of their life, that they have been rejected. Because we have rejected, with the rejection of the feminine, with the divine feminine, we have rejected women. And women have been suppressed now, thousands of years, especially at the beginning of the Abrahamic religions. You got your Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Women are suppressed because women are, the image of the divine, the image of God is male. So women are secondary. Yeah, even in the Old Testament, we are told that Eve was created out of the rib of Adam. So, first was the male, he is the spirit, he is the image of God, and then the woman was created because Adam was lonely and he needed a playmate. That's really what we read in the Old Testament, in the Bible. So, when I speak to these women, these are the ones that have come forward, they are always saying that there's something is missing. And I'm not talking here about the younger women. The younger women are so caught up in society, in this male-oriented society, in being beautiful, having bigger breasts and bigger butts and bigger lips, that the dreams and visions and intuitions and art doesn't even come into it there. But the older women, the women that have the time now to read, to ponder, to contemplate, to pay attention to their dreams, the ones that especially that haven't forgotten how to pay attention to their dreams, they come forward and they tell me that there is something that it's inspiring them to look further and look deeper into our human culture, that there's a missing part in our culture, in our psyche, that is trying to break through. And it's returning in many different ways. I've already mentioned Marija Gimbutas. She was a famous Lithuanian archaeologist and a scholar. She did make the discovery of what she called Old Europe. And this was a society in the Neolithic, so we're talking about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, and it was centered in the goddess. She called it the Great Goddess, and this was a society that was based on art, on equality. So men were not oppressed, but women were in charge of spiritual communication, of spiritual nurturing. So there were shrines devoted to the goddess, and whole of nature was sacred. So this is one example, and this is a very big example because Marija gave us a huge volume of scholarly work that you can. I'll leave a few links in the descriptions if you're interested in this. Her story and her discoveries, and we've got a lot. She discovered thousands upon thousands of statuettes and figurines of the goddess. She calls it the goddess because they were all female images. Female images combined together with the bird, with the serpent, with hedgehog, with frog. If you understand the language of the soul, the language of the spirit, the language of the dreams of the collective unconscious, you will realize that the feminine, like the frog or the bird, is your intuition that links the two invisible and visible dimensions of spirit and matter as one. Frog, for instance, because it has the ability to live both on land in the conscious and on water in the unconscious. And bird has the ability to exist on water, especially the water bird like a swan or a duck, and up in the sky on a tree or on a land, you see? So it bridges the two dimensions, the visible and invisible. Same as hedgehog. Hedgehog is one of the oldest images, especially in Europe, because it lives underground and on the ground. So it lives in the invisible dimension of the unconscious and on the visible dimension of the conscious, which is on the ground. So all these images are now popping up in people's art as well, spontaneously. It did come in my art spontaneously many years ago when I was just 20 years old, 19 years old. And even earlier, this image of the feminine, of woman, that's what I painted. Behind me there, you can see, I painted this in '96. This is an image, what I called the center of the universe. And it's an image of a woman, center of the universe. She is the feminine, the feminine divine at the center, your own inner center, which is your intuition, the inner eye that sits between this, between the left and the right eye, the opposites, as the Jungians would call them. One looking inward, one looking out, and that's the inner eye that mediates between the two. And there is your core of the feminines, like I always said, is your intuition. And another person that strikes me that has also come forward with a lot of research is Inversion. She came out years ago, and she had huge dreams that led her to discovery of the feminine, the divine feminine of the goddess. She's done a lot of scholarly work and talks, and she's been doing speeches all around the globe for all sorts of different conferences. She's retired now, but she still does talks through video, and so conferences and talks. And she's she's a trained historian, and she's a trained Jungian, so she has the ability to put together the timeline of what happened to the feminine, how she got suppressed. She calls the lunar era, the lunar as in moon era of the goddess, which then was suppressed by the solar era, or the era of God the Father. So when we had the movement from divinity being here on earth to movement of the divinity being in the sky, and we've been looking up into the sky for salvation ever since. Yeah, so this is your Abrahamic religions. So she came forward, Inversion. She came forward with a lot of studies and a lot of work for us that helped a lot of women heal. Because without the ability to realize that a woman is just as holy as a man, women cannot heal. And an important thing to understand about women healing too is that women need to be healed by that which injured them in the first place. That is to say, the injury that women have is the injury of losing the feminine. So the feminine is the one that heals that injury. She fills the void that's missing. And it is better that it's done from men, because men have rejected the feminine, and with the rejection of the feminine came rejection of women. It is also better that the men do give women the ability to find the feminine, the ability to find the goddess, rather than women. That makes the healing even more potent, if you like. Because it was the missing the feminine together with the men, where the wound to women has arisen in the last few thousand years. And there are lots of other people I can think of, that have come forward, trying to bring the goddess, the divine feminine, back into society. Another one is Kovacs. Now Betty is also Jungian, and she does work where she's talking about the dreams. She's talking about she's a mythologist, so her speciality is to be able to tell you how this myth, the original mythology, got inverted from the mythology of union of spirit and matter to rejection of the spirit. That matter is dead, and the new spirit, not just religious but also scientific deductionism, if you like. So the feminine, the dreams, the visions, the irrational, the poetry, for instance, the mystics, not so much the saints, because the saints, they did have visions, but the visions were usually within the approved scripture of the church. For instance, if we're talking about the Christian Catholic saints, so that was approved. But if you had a vision which is different to that of what is approved in the scripture, that was forbidden. So you were then a heretic. So Betty Kovacs is another one. I'll leave all the links about these women that have come forward to work to bring back the feminine divine in the description below. So there's Marija Gimbutas, there's Inversion, Betty Kovacs, and there are many others. And like I said, more and more women are coming forward to me because I work and I write a lot about the feminine divine, and I write more on from my own experience and how to do it, how to reconnect with the spirit, whether through your dreams or through art or through poetry or through working with symbols, mythological symbols, which is another great way of doing it, because the mythological symbols are the language of the soul already. So you've got the holy tree, you've got the tree of life, you've got the colors like blue or fire or cave. These are all mythological symbols, yeah? You've got the cross, you've got the water, the spring, the well. All these are already, these are all, you know, pictorial language of the soul. Because prior to, like I said, prior to religions, Abrahamic religions, there was paganism, and paganism, everything was holy in paganism. So that there was a holy brook, that was a holy tree, there was a holy mountain, and everything else. So that still lives deep within our psyche. I'm just going to have a look at our time here. Can't see anything. Oh, okay. So I'm just checking because my phone has got only limited memory. So that's what I wanted really to talk to you about today. The return of the divine feminine, and she does come because we need to recover our balance. And the missing balance is the irrational, the ability to have a direct relationship with the spirit, like shamanism, mysticism. That was not forbidden back in the day. Everyone could and was inspired to have their own direct relationship with the gods. Even into late paganism, there were temples where you could go and incubate, sleep incubate, or dream incubate, and you know, a god or goddess would come and speak to you about your illness or the problem that you had, and you wake up and you have the answer and you start healing, you know, immediately. You know, that later was destroyed by the church, for instance, or the Christian church. So these are the things that I wanted to just briefly touch on today about the return of the divine feminine. There's more and more women that are coming forward with it. It is more women are more open to it, especially the women that are have now more time to contemplate this and read and so on, and find it in their own dreams and in the environment. And these women are coming forward, for instance, finding me, and it's not a surprise that they're finding me because I write about it all the time. So another thing that to mention here is that when you start to be a voice of the soul, be a voice of the feminine divine, people who need this will find you. That it's a mystery, you know, we don't really know, I can't scientifically explain to you how that happens, but it happens. People just kind of, you know, stumble upon me when they need it. And it comes not only through research, but it just comes intuitively in a moment, in that moment. And that's the whole feminine divine. And one of her biggest symbols is the symbol of the moon. The moon. Why the moon? Because the moon carries within it both light and dark. It's not just light like the sun. This is the solar era of the rational mind, of God the Father. Excuse me, God the Father. There's light, but there's no darkness. The feminine has got both. The light, the visible part, and the dark, the invisible part, the inner life of your own soul, the inner life of culture, of psyche, the mythology, the stories, you know, the fairy tales, the irrational, the caves, the old caves, and the paintings and the poetry. You know, your dreams, your visions, that's the dark side. The darker side, the deeper you go into the cave, the closer you get to the center, to the source that you and all things really are. Yeah? We knew all this, but now we've managed to forget. But we are slowly returning to the feminine, to bring back the balance into our culture, bring back the balance to our world, and we realize that we are already in heaven. This is it. You are it. You're divine. The planet is divine. That bird over there that's just having a feed is divine. My dogs that are sleeping on the couch are holy. Everything is holy. The air you breathe. Okay, so that's the feminine divine. That's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I'll see you next one. Bye.